Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. The transportation industry always changing to make sure that safety is in effect. There are millions of vehicles on the road. I don't have to tell you that if you've been stuck in traffic. Drivers, there's a lot of safety concerns there. Today, we're going to look at some of the changes recently implemented in the cargo tank industry. And this all begins with this gentleman who has made it his work to make sure that companies that dispatch these vehicles are safe. His company is DOT Training Solutions. He's Matt Freeman. He's back with us. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
How you doing, well, Steve? Good to be back again.
Great to have you back here. We learn a lot. And anytime I'm in traffic, all I'm doing is looking for bulk vehicles. Carriers and tankers now. And you get a different view. You look at it in a different way. You have a guest today who is a cargo tank specialist, right? Who we have?
I have Jim Young. He is one of our trainers and consultants. Does an amazing job with us, working with our our clients and customers out there all over the country and a little bit of the world, it seems like. But
Cool.
yeah, Jim, we're going to talk about what his background is and and how we can
Awesome.
talk about what's going on today.
Well, Jim, welcome. You've got
Thank
a
you.
lot of years behind you, right? Tell us about your background.
Briefly, I started in the industry in 1991, selling parts and components. And in 1995, I went to work for a tank trailer manufacturer. And on the manufacturing site, I ran the resale parts department and the repair facility. And then in 2003, a friend of mine and I went into business together, and we opened two cargo tank repair facilities here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex where I live. And
Wow.
up until about a year ago, I ran those two facilities, and then I joined Matt's team.
So we're going to get deeper into some recent changes, but even before we get there, in the last, let's say, 10 years in the cargo tank industry, what are some things that have changed?
A lot of the things that have changed are technology based.
Okay.
They have they're not necessarily regulatory, but they have there's been a real swing toward suspension systems that prevent rollovers, or at least help prevent rollovers. In the world of gasoline and diesel tank haulers, the technology for spill prevention has increased. There hasn't been a lot of major change really since 1995, but they're starting to kind of get into the weeds and into the details to make the tanks safer and to prevent spills and rollovers.
Would you say that the general public doesn't realize the technology that's involved in all of this? We just think it's a vehicle with wheels and it's carrying something.
Yeah, I also think the public doesn't realize most of the time those vehicles weigh 80,000 pounds. And when an 80,000 pound vehicle is going 60 miles an hour and you jump in front of it, you have a problem. But the technology with regard to rollover prevention, with regard to overfill and spill prevention, no, it's a foreign world to the general public.
Yeah. I can't even imagine an 80,000 pound vehicle charging down the road. And then it happens every day. But what doesn't happen is the accidents. There's always going to be accidents. That's the way life is. But, when you think of the volume of vehicles, it's very far and few between, and thanks to, Matt and Jim. I mean, seriously. And there's so many things to look at, from the driver to the vehicle. What just went into effect in the last, basically when we're here today, this is the 16th of July, depending on when you're accessing this or live. 24 hours ago, something went into effect. What's going on, Jim?
After a lot of discussion and years of going back and forth, at the rear of a trailer, this isn't concerning a truck, at the rear of a trailer, under some circumstances, they have to have what's known as an underride bar or a rear impact guard. And that's a bar that's basically at the rear of the trailer to keep the car from going under the trailer. And that which would allow the trailer to get into the passenger compartment of the car. And that rear underride guard, we can talk about some of the history of it if you wish, but basically it went from needing to resist a 30-mile-an-hour impact to now it has to resist a 35-mile-per-hour impact, which is now matches the Canadian rules. Funny enough, most of the manufacturers said, you're not going to see a difference. We've been building this underride guard all along so that our vehicles are accepted on Canadian roads.
Let's have that number again. It's in the back and the impact. What are we
30
talking
miles
about?
an hour. 30 miles an hour was the previous regulation. Any vehicle manufactured after yesterday, July 15th, has to be able to resist a 35-mile-per-hour impact.
Splitting hairs. When you look at that, but that just goes to show the scrutiny and everything that we're talking about. How much testing must have gone into the difference between 30 and 35 miles an hour? And what is I don't know if anybody can answer that, but what is the criteria for when you say withstanding the impact?
There's a lot of engineering data. I'm not an engineer. I just play one on TV. There's engineering data that goes into it with how much the beam at the rear can resist when a car does hit it. I don't know how they arrived at a 30 mile per hour. I don't know how Canada arrived at 35. There are people that would like to have that number higher, I'm sure, but the data is there. They have AutoCAD programs that can predict, and they also do live tests. They sit a trailer still and they slam a car into it with crash
That's the
tests.
science of it.
It's all the science behind it. People much smarter than me or Matt or are the ones out there figuring this stuff out.
Wow. I didn't realize that that 5 mile difference, but I guess that can make a big difference when you're hauling a combustible material, right?
You bet. And honestly, this ruling with the underride bar, it's for all trailers. It's not just cargo tanks. It's for all trucks and trailers that are out on the road. It gets very rigidly scrutinized on the cargo tank world because there is a hazardous chemical or a combustible or flammable material in the cargo tank. But it actually does apply to all trucks and trailers.
Wow. Matt, when we talk about all trucks and trailers, just for the general public to get a better idea of what we're talking about, can you describe those types of vehicles?
We're talking about all your commercial motor vehicles. Your primarily your large box trailers out there. Anything that's being pulled behind a semi truck, tractor, okay, is what we're focusing on those. So you got your basically any semi trailer that includes a cargo tank, flatbed, car hauler. Anything that is being pulled behind a truck tractor.
The general public would call them 18-wheelers.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
So that being said, the bar was there or wasn't there?
The bar, if you want to get back into the history, a very brief history of it, the bar was placed there in 1953, actually. It did not have any strength or stress requirements. All this engineering and testing that Matt and I talked about, none of that was done. There were very few specifics on it, but the bar was there, vehicles manufactured in 1953 forward.
Wow.
The interesting side of the story about the bar is you've heard of the actress Jane Mansfield, who was killed in a car wreck in 1967. With her daughter, the very famous Mariska Hargitay, was actually in the back seat of that car with two of her other siblings. The three adults in the front all perished in the accident. The three children in the back all survived with minor injuries. In that case, a car slid under the back of a trailer and it started to take the top of the car off. And thus, they started calling this the Mansfield bar. And in 1967, there was a big uprising to improve that bar. 1977, there was another push in 1996, and nothing got done until 1996. So 30 years after the accident, they put in place new regulations. It's BMSS 223 for those that want to get into the weeds on it. But it changed the requirements. It lowered the height the bar had to be. It added strength and stress requirements, and it changed how far the tires can be away from the rear of the trailer.
Wow.
If the tires are 12 inches or less, no bar is required. If the tires are further than 12 inches away from the rear frame, then a rear underride bar is required.
And real quick here, on the codes we're talking about with FMVSS is the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards. That's
Sorry.
all vehicles. No, that you're fine. But sometimes I want to throw out there where those meanings come from, and that's where those acronyms and stuff are. So if anyone ever wants to look, you have to go through the FMVSS, which is Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards, which we use on a regular basis in our industry. Go ahead, Jim.
But that ruling that began in January of 1998, it had specific stress requirements. It had very specific engineering and strength requirements, and it detailed what that bar has to look like, how wide it has to be, how high off the ground it's limited to, and it got very specific. And that ruling at the time in 98 was the 30-mile-an-hour ruling, and it was just increased to a 35-mile-an-hour ruling yesterday.
Jim, in your opinion, is the bar effective as it is now with, you call it the 35-mile-an-hour rating? Is it enough? Should we have more?
If you really get into the weeds to look at requests people have made, there are organizations out there that want to increase that mile per hour number. They want to change the design of it to include this angle and this angle of accident. I have seen more accidents than I can count come into my repair facilities where the unit was impacted at the rear and the car did not go under the trailer. It saved it. I remember one in particular with a vehicle standing still, and they said a small car hit it going 67 miles an hour. And the structure, the bar, everything that worked together at the rear kept that car from going under the trailer and getting into the passenger compartment. So as far as I have seen, yes, sir, it works. You can't take all things into account, though. There's going to be random accidents from random angles at different speeds and things where you're not in the area of the bar that's going to be effective for you. But as far as what they can count on, what they can plan for, yeah, they work.
Wow. What are your thoughts, Matt?
Well, it's very circumstantial. Really depends on the incident, and no one can predict, if that car is going to be going. And I totally agree with Jim 100%. And luckily the cases that are out there, the bar's protected. But there are the circumstances where it's, again, you get a freak accident and someone's going way faster than what that bar handles, and you just hope that it holds. Like Jim, I believe you said the car was going over 60 mile an hour when it hit and it held. That's what you want it to do. Are there circumstances where that bar could fail? I'm sure there is. We're talking about small vehicles that it's protecting. You get a large, say you have a pickup truck and it's
Mm.
flying at 60 mile an hour
Pulling a
or 80
trailer.
mile an hour, pulling a trailer, and rear ending a big rig. Will that bar hold? Maybe, maybe not. But you hope it will do the job to protect it from going all the way under. That's the only way you can look at that. Again, I guess you can say it's the science and engineering of it. Um, it if you say it's going to hold something that's going 100 mile an hour, how many people is going to drive 100 mile an hour?
Right.
So you got to go off of look at speed limits that the average, uh, public's doing, or what the highway safety says that you have to go. But fortunately, these guards do save lives. Um, there are some things out there that they're looking to do more extreme guards with on these trucks. There's a lot of talk out there on putting bars all the way around the vehicle or the trailer,
Mhm.
to protect them from going underneath. So it's yet to come on what changes could be out there. There's a lot of both positives and pros and cons on doing it in the industry. A better way to look at it, is the expense. How much does it save? A life is a life. You know, um, it's not my call or Jim's call, or to make those decisions. To save the lives, but what we got to do is support our customers and safety out there on what's required. That's what we got to make sure that they're doing.
Is there any, Matt, is there any kind of maintenance that the bar, once it's placed, welded, whatever, eh, after the manufacturing process, does anything need to get done, or can it ever rust?
There are some requirements out there as far as what's required on that bar. And one of the things is it has to be stamped,
Mm.
marked, labeled on the back of that bumper, showing that it is DOT approved. Okay. That's one of the key things. Jim, anything else um, on that side of it?
Yeah, when you're doing an inspection, you are not only making sure it's there, you're making sure that because there are brackets that support the bar, and the brackets in the bar have to be in good condition. None of the welds can be cracked. If it's bolted on, none of the bolts can be loose. And then, like Matt said, we're inspecting to see if that label is there that says this is approved, and it has engineering backing it, that it is a legitimate bar. And if it's not, then the trailer is not allowed to keep rolling until that problem is corrected. So there's not a lot of maintenance necessarily to do to it, but there are inspection points to make sure that it's still up to par.
In a couple of minutes that we have left, I don't want to open up the proverbial can here, but Jim, is there anything that you would like to see changed in the industry in relation to structure, safety, anything that like has always been gnawing at you, but never really talked about?
There really, as far as the safety and the structure goes, there really isn't anything that I see out there that's a big bugaboo. To kind of tag on to Matt, there are people moving for more weight at the back, more things on the side to prevent this type of accident or that type of accident. The funny part about that is, and one of the reasons why the regulators are kind of holding back on making that ruling is if you add weight, then if you add weight to what the vehicle is empty, you decrease the amount of payload it can carry. The net effect of that is more trucks on the road. So
Wow.
it's being looked at now as kind of a catch-22. If we add all this crap you guys want on there, you're going to add 50,000 trucks on, or however many each year. So
Wow.
but no,
Yeah.
I can't think of anything. These things are getting so much better. The engineering is better. The stainless steel they're using is high grade, and
Hmm.
I just wish everybody would be more careful around them.
These are why we're not the professionals on this side. who would ever think of that? The more you add, another bar here, another reinforcement there, add substantial weight. And then that can take the vehicle overweight. And now you're going to put another vehicle to make up the slack. And then that changes the financial situation of all of this. Wow. And that's when we multiply that by the number of vehicles on the road. That's a big deal. Matt, any thoughts with the last couple of minutes that we have left?
Yeah, no, Jim's absolutely right. It's been the last few years. This topic's kind of been pretty hot and heavy with the industry, and then and then the government side of safety.
Sure.
You can't. I'm always for safety. You can't have enough safety. Okay, if it's bars, if it's kill switches, whatever it is. But there are things you still got to look at. What can the industry afford as far as increasing the safety on their equipment? There's a lot of costs to it, but again, I accept anybody who wants to be more safe. I would never argue that. Now, I'd understand money and regulatory is two different things. But there's a little bit of, I wouldn't say controversy, but just a lot of difference of opinion on how they want to pursue the rest of the safety features on a trailer in general.
Sure.
Is it needed? Maybe, maybe not. I can't answer that. But, again, I'm not going to discredit anybody who wants to be more safe on any of their vehicles.
Well, point brought up today with the changes implemented yesterday. You have one side that says it's 5 miles an hour. You're not going to see a difference. You have the other contingent saying, well, wait a minute. This is a long time coming. It's been in place, this bar with 30 miles an hour for 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it is. A lot of difference of opinion, but it just comes down to the safety. Matt, how does somebody find you? Let's say they're a carrier company and they want to connect, even just ask some questions, maybe make some changes within their safety structure on the roads. How do they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can reach us at, here's my direct phone number. It's 573-416-8203. That's my direct line. You can also reach us on our website at dottrainingsolutions.com. I'll give you my direct email as well. It's matt@dottrainingsolutions.com, or we also have our general info line, which is info@dottrainingsolutions.com.
Awesome. Learned a lot today. I'm sorry. Continue.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, and Jim, if you want to throw your information out there real quick.
Yeah, my email is jim@dottrainingsolutions.com. And then I'm sorry, I have to age myself here. My direct phone number is 913-562-8670.
Awesome. I just changed cell phones and they put a different line in. I don't even know what number it is. So I totally get you.
I had to look.
Nor could I see it.
I work with 3 on the same phone, so it's tough sometimes.
Exactly. Thank you so much for today. Important information and just a different view of what's going on out there. And you know what? We're not in the trucking industry over here. The general public obviously isn't, but it does affect us because they're on the roads and safety first. Matt and Jim, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.